Back into Good Morning Quad Cities. A much quieter start to the day. No showers and storms on the radar, but boy, was it busy around here last evening, especially on the Illinois side of the river. That's where we actually had a confirmed tornado near one of our hometowns. We'll take a look at where that was spotted coming up in just a moment. First, though, let's get you started with your traffic situation, which is good this morning. No major delays, and certainly weather not going to be a factor for us either. Here's what I'm talking about in terms of that active weather last evening. In fact, Aaron Carlson capturing this funnel cloud here outside of Geneseo, just enough to spawn a tornado warning for Geneseo itself, points to the south and east, even setting off the tornado sirens too. I was able to check in from my Ring video doorbell to hear those sirens. Wasn't home as the warning was issued, but certainly got a little exciting down in Maple Leaf City there last evening. Here's where the tornado did touch down. It was just to the southwest of town near Morristown. The National Weather Service calling this an EF0 unknown, mainly because the only damage that was observed from this was done to corn crops and some of the bean crops too in the vicinity. Technically, they're classifying this as a land spout, which, by the way, is also a tornado. The main difference being land spouts are not associated with supercell thunderstorms. So that's what we were looking at last evening. Much quieter story and picture for us this morning. In fact, there's the energy associated with that storm activity pushing into Indiana. You see back out in here in Iowa, all is clear and quiet. I'm going to widen this picture out, though, because we're already looking at our next piece of energy coming in later today. That'll be a combination of not only this storm cluster here entering western Iowa, but this piece of energy in the Dakotas. That's what's going to bring the threat for some damaging winds as we get into the later part of our Thursday evening. Before then, though, this afternoon, it is just going to be downright hot and humid once again. Notice the heat advisory has expanded a little further northward up to about the I-80 corridor. That's where we're expecting heat index values to surge past 100 degrees. Could feel up to 105 as we head into the afternoon. And eventually, as those storms organize into parts of Iowa where there is a likely scenario for some severe weather later on today, we do have the higher end possible risk for some of our hometowns, and this will be primarily after dark. I think that's going to be the timing here. So if you're in this brighter red, that's where you're going to have the better potential of seeing not only some winds up to 60, 70 miles an hour, but also the possibility of an isolated tornado like what we saw yesterday. A couple of boundaries are left draped across the region. Those could interact with each other and make for an interesting evening later tonight. Here's how Future Track kind of lays things out. So we're quiet through the morning and even into the early afternoon. It's already 89 by lunchtime. We're headed for 92 for the heat of the afternoon, about 4, 5 o'clock this evening. Then watch what happens as this complex dives in from Iowa. And yeah, it's a fairly solid line, so there is going to be a good rush of wind with this, say after 10, 11 o'clock this evening. Right on top of us here in the Quad Cities at about midnight, and then that will push off to the east. So far, first thing tomorrow morning for your Friday, it looks like we will be quiet and dry. However, can't rule out another isolated shower storm coming in later in the day. 66 is where we're at right now. 70 as we head into Moline. A little bit of a breeze kicking in out of the east today. We'll watch for some strong storms later on, especially this evening, and then more isolated coverage into Friday. In fact, a lot of Friday night football games kicking off tomorrow night. I do believe the coverage is isolated enough that most of us will stay dry. Certainly looks like we'll have a dry start to the weekend on Saturday. Heating up once again there. Expecting another heat advisory before we cool things down early next week.